Okay, I believe it's time to start with our next session. So when we were having our planning meetings, we were taking turns deciding who was going to facilitate different sessions. And Amy said, who wants to facilitate the success stories for our students? And I quickly volunteered. This is always a highlight of each GCSP meeting. And so I am really excited to get to introduce our students to you and some alums to you and let them tell their story. Also, this is like the easiest panel to facilitate because our students are so fantastic. And so we'll just go in alphabetical order. I'm going to give each panelist about 5 or 6 minutes to share some of what they're working on or they worked on in the GCSP. And we'll let all 4 present, followed by some Q&A time, and we'll open it up for Q&A from the audience. So first off, we have Hillary Chamov, who is currently a student at Oregon State University, majoring in civil engineering. Hillary?
Hi, thank you for that. I'm really excited to be here. Let me see if I can get this share thing to work here. Present. There we go. Okay, so hi, thank you for that introduction. My name is Hillary. I'm a 4th year at Oregon State University studying civil engineering. I grew up in Portland, Oregon, and I'm actually back home with my family until in-person classes resume. It's been a really new type of challenge learning how to be roommates with my parents again. But one kind of positive has been getting to spend lots of extra time with my dog, Houston. So had to make it onto the slides here. So a little bit about what drew me to Grand Challenge Scholars Program is I wanted to be a civil engineer because of the impact that our infrastructure has on the people who use it. In high school, I learned about this hospital, Legacy Emmanuel in Portland, that completely destroyed a primarily Black community in Portland. But then I also learned about Musicians Village in New Orleans. This was a community like literally built surrounding a music center and was designed to preserve the heart of jazz in our country after Hurricane Katrina. So this kind of stark contrast between these 2 examples really illustrated the difference that I thought I could make as a civil engineer. I'm directly designing for people. And from day one, I've always thought that the best way to do that is to understand these people and the cultures in the different communities. And for me, that meant traveling and taking courses that would push my critical thinking to consider perspectives that maybe I wouldn't otherwise have considered. And kind of this interest is something that I was really struggling to find ways to explore. I wasn't finding it in just my technical courses. And that is until OSU started its Grand Challenge Scholars Program chapter. Which I saw as a really great platform that not only allows me to explore those interests, but it really encourages me to do that and then find a way to bring it back and connect it to my career goals. So with my competencies in Grand Challenge Scholars Program, I have completed most of them, but I really want to talk about kind of the most impactful one today, which was my 3 months spent doing research in Madrid. So I worked at doing research on a project called My Building is Green. And this was a project funded by the European Union. And we looked at the application of nature-based solutions for the adaptation of public buildings to the impacts of climate change, which is a little bit of a mouthful, but really what that means is there are a lot of public buildings, especially schools in the world right now, that are not designed to keep up with the impacts of climate change. Their actual, like their physical structures are deteriorating, and people inside those buildings are feeling higher concentrations of carbon dioxide, and it's impacting children's ability to focus in school, and it's causing people to take days off of work. And it's a big problem that I didn't know about until I had done this research. And what we do know is that there are things like green roofs, and you can see there's plants all over this building. These are things that do make a good difference. But right now we don't know how good that is. We don't have a good measure of, we don't have a good way to quantify, well, how good is it if we put, if let's say we cover a side of a building with plants, like how much monetary benefit are we going to be getting? And so my research was really trying to quantify this and be able to take it to building owners and say, if you invest X number of dollars in this solution, you will see this much benefit. And ultimately, we were hoping to put that into building codes. But I also want to say that one of the best parts of this was that my office was literally in the National Garden of Spain. Like, so this red dot by, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but over here by Ibiza, that's where I lived. And I walked through this amazing park every morning and got to the Royal Botanical Garden of Madrid. And I got to spend every day, all day in that garden. I didn't directly work with plants, but it was surreal. I did visit with my parents when I was 10 years old. And then to be able to say that 10 years later, I worked there was just truly, truly amazing. So then a little bit more about like the living side, which is really what I took away from this, is I got to live with the most amazing roommates. They were not affiliated with my university at all. This girl on the left here, Gulsha, she's from Turkey, getting a master's in nutrition. The girl in the middle, Patricia, was 34 and from Venezuela, working in law. And we really came together, all these different cultures, and you know, they were in the middle of their lives in Spain. They were living their life, and I kind of just joined for a few months and really got to make some friends for life. I still talk to them every couple of weeks. We get together and we have our little Zoom calls and check in and see, oh, what's COVID like in Spain? How are you doing? Stuff like that. But so the highlights, I'll go through these a little quickly. But so the highlights from my time in Spain is I got to go see this amazing aqueduct in Segovia, which was, you can see all of those stones. There is nothing cementing those together. And as a civil engineer, I totally nerded out that has been standing for hundreds of years and none of those rocks have fallen down. I think that is just a truly amazing feat. Another thing, this was probably one of the best days of my life, was getting to see the Setas de Sevilla, which is in southern Spain. And it is this huge wooden structure, pretty socially controversial because the city that it's in is really known for its historical architecture. And then they came in and plopped this super new modern structure in the middle of it. And while they were building it, they uncovered these ancient ruins. And rather than getting rid of them and putting this new structure on top, they kept them there and chose to create this exhibit of these ancient ruins directly underneath. So you can go visit this brand new structure, and then right underneath you can visit the ancient ruins and see that history. So how did this all impact my career plans and goals? When I first chose the Restore and Improve Urban Infrastructure, I was really kind of tunnel-minded. Living in the Pacific Northwest, I thought that meant, well, we need to protect all of our structures from this earthquake that's coming. Like, we need to retrofit and make sure that our infrastructure doesn't fall down. I hadn't really been aware of the opportunities to improve the sustainability and longevity of our infrastructure, and I didn't understand the severity of the conditions that stuff is in right now. And so seeing all of this and seeing all of the efforts in sustainability that are being done in Europe that I don't ever hear about here really kind of opened my eyes to this new possibility, and gave me a renewed sense of hope and a new outlook on my challenge, that it's not just about making sure that our infrastructure will withstand an earthquake, but it's making sure that our buildings don't have a bigger environmental impact than they need to. And just like the Setas de Sevilla, it's not necessarily about replacing all the infrastructure we have. It's just about finding ways to make simple adjustments to preserve the culture and the communities, and to do what we can to improve the quality of life of those who use that infrastructure. And Grand Challenge Scholars let me do that.
Okay, thanks so much, Hillary. I look forward to chatting more about the work you've done. Next up, we have Eduardo Luciano Wapaya. He is an Arizona State Biomedical Engineering grad from their GCSP, and he's now a master's student in the Thunderbird School of Global Management, also at ASU. So Luciano, you're up next.
I forgot the unmute button. Hi, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are in the world. It's a pleasure to be talking at the GCSP National Summit, and just a pleasure to be here. So my experience derives from my Peace Corps experience. Where can I? Okay, perfect. A little bit about me, like Katie said. I obtained my BSc in biomedical engineering last year. I graduated from Arizona State. My grand challenge theme was in health. I did several internships where I worked with Project Cure, a nonprofit organization collecting medical devices to then send across the globe. And then I also interned in UPC in Peru, where I helped code a potential application for malaria. And now I'm going to school at Thunderbird School of Global Management. So go T-Birds. But my success story definitely derives from a lot of what GCSP has taught me, and also just personal experiences that I've gone through. But my success story revolves around just being able to collect the data that I was needed to do to analyze a problem, and then I was able to define the problems that were needed in the village and surrounding areas, and then I developed action plans. And then right here on my right, or probably your right as well, I am standing with Lamin Fofana, the village nurse in Jurunku village. And it was a pleasure to just be able to interact with the people, learn the culture, learn the language. And my key learnings from just the Peace Corps that I want to share with you is that as we're starting to see a more globally mindset corporations and just endeavors in the world, it's just very crucial to understand where people come from and being able to interact with them. At a cross-cultural communication standpoint, we have to identify a common ground to be able to communicate with one another. And depending on the culture, interpersonal relations definitely go a long way on how to potentially leverage yourself on how to negotiate better, or just being able to have a better friend in the community. And then understanding culture is huge. You have to understand the religion, the family dynamic, everything revolved around that. And also just being adaptable and flexible. Being adaptable and flexible in different countries definitely is understanding, because in the US we're very structured. In other countries it's not as structured, and we have to be able to understand how to work with one another, especially in this pandemic. And those are a couple of things that I wanted to share with you. And just being able to learn about the culture and being able to fully work and delve myself in the culture, I was able to successfully work with organizations like the Gambian Red Cross, the Ministry of Health, the regional hospitals. I was truly blessed with the opportunity to have been able to go that far as a Peace Corps volunteer. And then this last photo is just my Peace Corps cohort with the US ambassador. And it was just a wonderful time. But yeah, if you guys have any other questions, feel free to contact me via LinkedIn or after this panel. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you so much. Next, we're going to hear from Trina Pham, who is a current student at Clemson University, majoring in biomedical engineering.
Is it working? Just making sure.
Yes, we can hear you and we can see your slides.
Okay, great. Hey y'all, my name is Trina Pham, and I'm super excited to share my story with you guys and how GCS has really shaped my journey and story along the way. So a little bit about me. I am first and foremost Vietnamese. That is my heritage, that's my culture, that's my ethnicity, and that's like the first thing I like to tell people when I meet them. I'm also an immigrant as well. I was born in Japan. And like many of you, I am a first generation college student. So speaking about college, I currently attend Clemson University. I am a bioengineering major with a minor in political science. I am a part of several organizations and clubs holding executive positions, leadership positions, and being like general members as well. I'm also part of our prestigious honors college here. So my involvement with the Clemson University Grand Challenge Scholars Program started probably my freshman year when I attended orientation, and one of our advisors, Dr. Brad Putman, talked about the program, and it was just so intriguing to me. Since then, I had met several members, and it was clear that they adored the program and that they were leaving as very professional, well-rounded students that are ready for industry, academia, or even research. So my sophomore year, I applied and I was accepted into our program. And I loved it so much that I applied for our executive board, where I was VP of Finance for 1 year, where I managed a $10,000 budget for our program. And now I currently serve as president, which has been the most rewarding role I could ever imagine. So since joining GCS, I have had a whirlwind of opportunities given to me, and I thank our advisors and the community because without them, I wouldn't have the support or resources that I would have to really succeed and thrive, as you guys can see. And so just taking you through the timeline of what has happened since I've joined, I can say I truly thrive professionally, academically, as so much. So in March of 2019, that is when I was accepted into our program. And then during this time, I was in the process of applying for a fully funded study abroad to the European Union. And I had a lot of upperclassmen help prep me, interview me, and look over my applications and essays. Unfortunately, I was chosen for a study abroad to Paris and Berlin, one of my most favorite memories. And then literally 2 weeks after that program ended, I went to Japan and I conducted polymer chemistry research at Kansai University. This program was recommended to me by another GCS scholar who was an upperclassman who did the program and just enjoyed it so much. And so I thought I wanted to do it as well. And then this year in particular has been my favorite, which is really weird to say because it's a pandemic. But this year I decided to take a gap year, and I started my gap year at SpaceX, where I was their vehicle engineering intern for the thermal protective systems. So basically that just means I worked for Starship, the rocket going to Mars, and I focused a lot on their heat shields, quality, and production. And I am currently at Tesla Motors right now. I just finished talking to my boss and telling him about this actually, but I am currently their technical program intern for safety and seating. I oversee Model X and Model Y 7-seater, which have been my child for the past few weeks. And the next big thing on my bucket list to do is host Design-a-thon with our Clemson University program. And I'm really excited to tell you more about this because last year we spoke about it so much at nationals, and then COVID happened. And so we had to backtrack and revamp the entire event. And yeah, let me tell you a bit more. So Design-a-thon is essentially a weekend invention marathon where you are building and designing solutions to grand challenges. And so this year, our theme, like I said, we had to revamp it, is the future of work, since we noticed that this pandemic has affected nearly everyone in their work style, environment, whether you are a new grad, whether you are a blue collar worker, or maybe you're someone seasoned in the industry as well. And so one thing we wanted to do was think of new solutions and ideas to redefine the workforce. And we also took inspiration from the NAE and their 4 pillars. And so we have 4 tracks that are exactly the same. It's the joy of living, health, security, and sustainability as well. And so if you have your calendar or agenda, you can mark down February 19th to the 21st of next year, which is when we'll be hosting the event. It will be conducted virtually. But I promise it is going to be so much fun. It's going to be educational, and that everyone, regardless of your experience, skill level, is going to take away something very fulfilling, whether it's networking, learning how to do rapid prototyping, learning how to pitch. It's going to be an amazing experience for everyone. And I'm super excited to tell you guys about it. So I can truly say that GCSP has been such a pivotal point in my undergraduate career. Whether it's working with my exec board, I have about like 7 vice presidents, and they're amazing. They're on the call right now, so hey guys. And then just the travel opportunities as well. Like I said, I've been to Europe, Asia, and I was also went to South America last year for my social consciousness competency, where I spent my 21st doing a mission trip with some friends, and that was very fulfilling. Another aspect that I have found very attractive of the Grand Challenge Scholars Program is the community. We currently at Clemson, we have 30 active scholars, and then we have a gazillion alumni who have gone on to do great things, whether it's becoming a Cambridge scholar, a Truman scholar, working in industry, starting their own startup. It's things like that that keeps me inspired and want to keep pushing our scholars here to do more and do better. And then it's also event planning. Like I said, I'm super excited to have told you guys about Designathon and hopefully see some people RSVP and sign up for the competition for next year. Again, it's February 19th to the 21st. So yeah, and thank you guys so much. I really enjoyed it. If you have any questions or want to contact me or connect, that's my info. But I'm super excited to chat with you guys a bit more during the Q&A. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. And last but certainly not least, I'm pleased to introduce Amara Yana, who is a Louisiana Tech grad from the major of chemical engineering. And Amara is currently working with Qatar Petroleum as an international JV assets co-coordinator. Amara?
Hi guys, hello and good evening from Doha, Qatar. I live in Doha right now, so I'm joining you from Qatar. It's a little dark outside, so that's why it's 8 p.m. here. But as Dr. Evans said, Dr. Evans taught me calculus actually, but as Dr. Evans said, I am a Louisiana Tech graduate. I have a bachelor's in chemical engineering with a minor in French. And upon graduating from Louisiana Tech, I proceeded to University of Texas in Austin to pursue a master's in global policy with a focus in development economics. My professional interests lie at the intersection of energy, technology, and human development. And I will talk you through some of my professional experiences, and that has been reflected throughout what I've done. When I had to add my LinkedIn information, if you want to find me, that's my full name. Feel free to reach out. But how did it start for me? It started for me with a calculus class again. In my freshman year, my calculus professor at the time, Dr. Carpenter, was talking to sophomores and upperclassmen, telling them about this program and all the possibilities that it opens up and how it broadens your horizon. But I was a freshman at the time, so I was ineligible. So I remember taking the poster from her and I put that on my board in my freshman year. And every few weeks, I'll look through, make sure my GPA is on track, make sure that I'm on track to be eligible when I'm a sophomore. And fortunately for me, when I was a sophomore, I had the 3.5 minimum GPA requirement, and I applied and I got admitted into the program. For us, I had to meet these 5 criteria. And for me, that meant interdisciplinary curriculum meant that I enrolled in the honors program, which entailed, in addition to my chemical engineering degree, and my French minor, I had to complete 21 hours of advanced humanity courses. I focused on psychology and sociology. I also participated in undergraduate research into thermal energy storage devices with Dr. Weiss. I don't know if he's online now, but I worked to try to improve the efficiency using paraffin wax as phase change material. Building on the findings from my research, I collaborated with a team to create a prototype of a solar and thermal power bank. And we pitched that at the New Venture Championship, which was a Louisiana Tech version of like a Shark Tank kind of thing, where you come and you pitch your ideas. So we did that, and although our prototype never made it to market, we actually won the People's Choice Award because people said, oh, there is a need for this. So that was my entrepreneurship experience. I also went ahead to intern with ConocoPhillips in Houston at the time, but trying to create a sustainable development strategy for the company's operations offshore Angola. So that was a global focus internship that I had to meet. And finally, I volunteered with National Society of Black Engineers, NSB, as well as SWE, Society of Women Engineers, to host various activities and I tutored K through 12 students in STEM courses as well as English. Because I was a chemical engineer when I started, I thought developing carbon sequestration methods was more in line with where I saw my career going. But throughout the program, my interests evolved and I ended up graduating with Make Solar Energy Economical as the goal that I was focusing on. And if you see the last picture on the bottom right over there, that's my mom. She came to the ceremony where I was receiving my award. So that's me with my GCSP medal on my neck, right there. But making solar energy economical ended up being the perfect segue into what came next for me, because for my graduate thesis at the University of Texas in Austin, I examined the interplay of social, economic, and technology drivers in the solar industry, trying to figure out how do social and economic mechanisms, so like word of mouth or subsidies, how do those drive the adoption of solar PV adoption in communities? Also, while at UT Austin, I interned with Austin Energy to investigate the participation of low to medium income earners in the electric vehicle technology. So Austin at the time, Austin is doing a lot of EVs. They have electric bikes that people can rent. They're trying to do electric buses as well as electric vehicles. But they noticed that the low to medium income people weren't participating in this. So we were brought in as student experts to help Austin Energy figure out what are the issues here and how can they better ensure that this service that's supposed to serve the community is not leaving people behind. And based on our findings between a correlation of income inequality and public policy, we're able to make recommendations that on how they can improve the system they already had to capture more people and ensure smart mobility for a greater population. Besides my coursework at UT Austin, I worked part-time with Sustainability International, which is a nonprofit dedicated to socioeconomic and environmental advancement for at-risk communities. Basically, that means for different communities, we're trying to figure out how best can we improve their lifestyle. Particularly for me, my biggest impact while working with SI was coordinating the production of the first ever virtual reality documentary to tell the world about the Niger Delta situation in Nigeria. The Niger Delta is the oil and gas hub in Nigeria, and there were oil spills for decades, which affected this region, which is riverine. So all they did was fish and farm, but then for decades they had oil spills. So that meant they couldn't fish or farm. So it had so many ripple effects on their economies. And we're trying to bring awareness to this, but I was like, okay, let's do virtual reality because there's an empathy gap. A lot of people probably on this call don't even know what I'm talking about with the Niger Delta. But with virtual reality, we're able to transport people to this place and time, and they can actually feel what we're trying to communicate. And that documentary was produced by Al Jazeera. It ended up being such a success. It was premiered at various international film festivals. And that, interestingly, paved the path for me to join Al Jazeera Media Network. I never imagined my career would take me to Al Jazeera Media Network, but I ended up working in Al Jazeera Media Network as the business operations manager for their digital team for 2 years. And early this year in March, I joined Qatar Petroleum as the International Joint Venture Asset Coordinator. Essentially, all that means is I deal with technical people, I deal with the compliance people. We have a lot of JVs with ExxonMobil, the big IOCs that you know, and I try to figure out how best can we ensure this joint venture is working as effectively as it can possibly be working. For me, in conclusion, the Grand Challenge Scholar Program laid the foundation for interdisciplinary collaboration. It's evidenced throughout my career path, throughout everything I've done. I'm always in a place where I liaise with technical as well as non-technical people, and I can speak both languages. So a lot of times I sit in technical meetings, we're discussing the world design, very technical things. At the same time, I'm on the other end trying to discuss with the non-technical people, ensuring that because I know what the technical guys are trying to do, how do we make sure that everybody is as aligned as they can be. It also prepared me to handle an intense amount of workload because, again, I was doing chemical engineering, which is rigorous enough on its own. I was really interested in working in Total, so I minored in French to make myself even a better candidate. And then I had the Grand Challenge Scholars requirements as well. So from an early age, or from an early stage in my career, I was able to hone my time management and planning skills, and that has gone with me throughout my career now. It also strengthened my community service muscle such that regardless of how busy I am, regardless of everything else going on, there's always time. I always have the bandwidth to give back and to volunteer to my community. It made me comfortable with research and exploring new fields. And as has been evident in my career path, this teachability has enabled me navigate various industries. So sometimes I'm sitting in meetings discussing cloud computing and AWS, Kubernetes, and I was like, wait, what is this? And then you go, you do research, and you come back to the next meeting, and you're like, everyone is like, who is this person? It's like, yep, that's me. I've done the work. The Grand Challenge Scholars gives you those skills to go and step out of your comfort zone. Last but not the least for me, it gave me my first nudge towards a global career. And that has helped me grow as an engineer who focuses on cultural context, as well as design efficiency and impact to society. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Amara, and all of our panelists. As a reminder to our audience, you can enter questions in the chat, which I'll monitor, or over in the Q&A. And we do have our first question in the Q&A. So a comment about great presentations, and obviously all of you have accomplished so much. What about times when things didn't work out as you expected? Perhaps even a quote failure. How did you meet that challenge and work around it? And I'll just open this up and let you all take turns. Whoever wants to answer that one.
I have a lot of failures, so I'll just go first. I can say I really struggled a lot with coursework, especially. And so when I was entering like my sophomore year, I struggled balancing having like 17, 18 credit hours on top of all my extracurriculars. And it caused so much stress and anxiety that I actually developed clinical depression and severe anxiety. And so one thing that has helped is like seeking professional treatment and seeing like go to psychotherapy. And so I found that even now, even though I am cured in a way, that it's still really helpful just to have additional help. And it's not being weak or anything. I like to say that to a lot of people. It's saying like there's always room for improvement in some area of your life, and having that non-biased person be there to help you is so beneficial. And so when you have a failure, I always just say like, see a therapist, like they're super helpful. But when you have like a lot of failures, just take it as part of the journey and gives you more ignition and fuel to do better and more moving forward. So that's just my take.
Anyone else want to respond to that? How you dealt with challenges and perhaps the role of GCSP in helping you deal with challenges?
Yeah, I can actually touch upon this. So just being classified as a biomedical engineering or as any type of engineer can be hindering, especially in the job market. In between working in the Peace Corps and graduating, I worked for an energy company, and in the energy company, like I didn't really have too much knowledge about the project or what it is, but you learn to adapt and you learn to pick things up pretty quick. And just being able to build those relationships will definitely help you along the way, because if you have questions, they're more than willing to answer those questions. And going along with someone else who said earlier about being empathetic, empathetic is such a key soft skill to have. Well, it should be a hard skill, but not a, yeah.
Nothing for me. I think Trina and Edward nailed it.
Okay, thank you. And I refuse to use the phrasing soft skills because they are anything but soft. They are professional skills, and it is quite clear that you all have developed quite a few of those professional skills. We have an interesting question from the audience. So what kind of advice would you give to students who are currently pursuing GCSP at their own institutions, but now participating in almost an entirely virtual environment, and in some cases purely virtual, depending on your institution?
That's tough. But I would say, if anything, this is a testament to the need to be more adaptable, right? We have to redefine collaboration and what that means to us. I know there's nothing replaces in-person collaboration and in-person physically fabricating things in the lab or whatever it is you would have done on campus. But the onus is on us now to accept that for now, this is the reality we have, and how can we be sure that we're proactive about making the best of it. Might not be so helpful, easier said than done, but really the onus is on us, I think, to figure out, okay, this is what I have for the next X months till maybe school resumes in person. What does that mean for me? How do I work to make sure that I don't lose steam because of this? And the days you do, that's okay too. Take the off days we need. We all need those sometimes. But remember that this is a marathon. So what do I, once my downtime is over, what comes next? How can I be inquisitive about how you can continue to motivate yourself despite the lack of physical face-to-face collaboration with your colleagues, I think.
I think that was a really great answer. I would also echo the flexibility and as engineers, that's what we do, is we take what we're given and find a way to make the most of it and to make it fit the situation as best we can. And I think especially in a time like this where nobody's experienced this before, nobody can say, oh, this is how you do it. That's our job. We need to figure that out. And I think one thing that Grand Challenge has really helped me figure out is what works for me. And, pushing us to have all of these new experiences has really, I've learned more about myself than I think I would have not being in this program. And I think that might be even more of a reason to join now is you can learn that much more about yourself and your limits and what will be best for you and how to take that into your career.
Okay, terrific. We have so many great questions coming in. We'll move to the next one. We've already alluded to this a little bit, but managing your time. So coursework, extracurriculars, internships. We have a lot of students hopefully joining us in the audience today, so I'm sure they would love to hear about some of your strategies for time management.
Okay, I'll take it. Prioritizing is the key to time management. I think it's figuring out what are the things I need to do. I'm old school, so I need to write it down either physically or in a calendar, but give yourself deadlines. I think we overestimate our ability to remember what needs to be done a lot of times. So it's easy. I think it's very effective to be like, these are the things I need to get done. This is my timeline. Again, as much as time management and prioritizing is important, you also have to pace yourself. So don't beat yourself up for the days where you're lethargic or the times when you're lethargic. But if you have a priority list and you remember that you're conscious of these things need to get done and the deadlines don't move, then work down your priority list. Sometimes it might also be helpful to work down from the most easily achievable. So sometimes you might have huge things and little things, and the huge things might be due before the little things, but the motivation or the fulfillment you get from getting the little things done might give you more inspiration to address the big things as well. First thing that I would say is prioritizing for sure. Have deadlines. Know what your deadlines are. And I always give myself a mental pre-deadline deadline. The actual deadline is Sunday. I tell myself the deadline is Friday, just so that it gives me lag time. If I need to, for some reason, I know that, okay, I still have this backup time. It's weird, you know, how people set their clocks to later times, and people argue it may or may not work, but I think that also helps to be like, oh, I think the deadline is Friday, and then when you double check, it's like, oh, it's actually Sunday, so that gives me a little bit of lag time. But I think prioritizing is definitely the first thing, and also being flexible. So if there are a few things that are due, and some things there can be flexibility to what needs to get done first, then rearrange as you need to. But I think holding yourself accountable is also a key thing. Delayed gratification is definitely one for me. I was such a nerd in college, and it might not be fun to be that person who is doing homeworks on Fridays and doing presentations on Saturday, working on slides when everybody's like, you can do that on Sunday. But if you know that, okay, I want to give myself time so that I can have feedback from my professor if necessary, feedback from whoever, go to office hours, you don't want to wait till last minute. So these are some of the things these are tools that I know that helped me while I was an undergrad, to stay on top of my time management and not miss deadlines of homeworks or tests or anything.
Yeah, I can add on top of that as well. One thing I like to tell kids in our program, when you're considering like extracurriculars, internships, and anything else, you're here first and foremost for a degree. So put that first before anything else. And then when you're deciding on which extracurriculars, if you want to have an executive position on some organization, ask if that's truly your passion, if that's something that's going to make you feel fulfilled, or if it's just like a resume thing. Like if it's just to put on your resume, you're going to start hating doing it. And you are just going to have this thing where you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I have to do this, but not a thing where you get to say, I get to do this. And I'm super excited. I used to do a lot of research for my lab, and I realized that I really hated doing bench work, just being in the lab itself. And it took a lot of time out of me as well. And so I had to sit down with my advisor and be like, I think I want to do something else with my time that is going to be more fulfilling to me and help push my career forward as well. And so understanding what long-term items you want to do is really helpful as well. If you want to do academia, research, industry, policy work, anything like that. But time management wise, Google Calendars is my favorite thing in the world, and I highly recommend it to anyone. It's super user-friendly, and you can color code it too, which is like probably my favorite part.
Okay, thank you. I personally like to put my lists in Asana because I get gratification from clicking the check. So not endorsing any products, but just sharing. I believe we have a question from the audience that we're going to try to let that person ask live. So Dave, are you there to ask? Okay, we may be having a little bit of trouble there, so I'll go on to another question and come back in just a bit. We've talked about seeking help and advice when needed, and one of the questions from the audience pertains to faculty mentorship. And so perhaps you all could comment on the role of faculty mentorship at your own institutions when you were going through the GCSP.
The faculty mentors were a critical part for me. They were always willing to provide opportunities, ask questions, answer questions rather, provide recommendations if needed. Like Dr. Carpenter and she was my faculty mentor at the time, and we're still in touch. How many years later? I was in DC for work last year. We had lunch together, because like we built such a strong relationship, just because in those times of Dr. C, what do I do? Which courses do I take? Where do I go? Helping you figure out what works for you best. The relationship with your faculty mentor also forces you to figure out what you want to do as against, because there's no concrete roadmap to the GCSP program. Like all of us have talked about, it's flexible and it's open for you to really carve it how you want, but choosing the right faculty mentor or having a faculty mentor really provides guidance so that if the world is really your canvas, how do you want it to go? And know that I'm here to help you go in as close to the direction that you want to as possible.
For me, I probably gave my faculty mentor a headache because I was all over the place of what I wanted to do at the time. I was thinking about going into industry, PhD. But to highlight a couple of people who have helped me through the GCSP role was definitely Dr. Abbas, for sure. We were able to chat, and he's also a returned Peace Corps volunteer, I was able to interact with. And also our very own Amy Trowbridge, she got me through the process on just being able to become a scholar, and I'm very appreciative of it.
I would also say the advisors with the Grand Challenge program at OSU, Scott Paget, Catherine Walters, and Priscilla have been so helpful. I know that like when I was in Spain and I got to go see the Setas de Sevilla, the big wooden structure in the aqueduct, I wouldn't have been able to do that without the scholarship that I got from Grand Challenge and the help that they gave me in pulling that application together, and the support in coming back and kind of thinking through like what did I learn here and how can I take this and put it forward into my career, and well, did that change what I want to do? And just kind of talking through all of that those are kind of resources that my friends can't really do that, and was really critical to kind of like continuing that development after I came back.
Yeah, I can say that mentors and advisors at Clemson University have been really supportive in supporting all of our crazy endeavors, like I said, with Design-a-thon and allowing our students to like travel abroad. And I can say our program would not be where it is today without Dr. Claire Dance, Aubrey Broadbent, and Dr. Brad Putman. They are the backbone of our program, and I'm just so thankful for them and how they've led this organization to where it is today.
Okay, thank you. We have some other questions coming in. I'm going to exercise a little bit of liberty as the moderator, something I've been wondering about. So Trina, you mentioned being a first generation college student, and I have a passion for first gen students because I was a first gen student and struggled to find early mentorship because it didn't exist in my family. And then I heard Luciano mention being sort of all over the board with things he was planning to do and really relied upon a mentor during his GCSP journey to help him find his path and craft his message. And so my question for all of you, and I'm going to make all of you answer, did you envision that this is what your undergraduate might look like? Because I can imagine as some of our undergrads in the audience hear your stories, they might even be intimidated thinking, I can't do any of those things. So tell us a little bit about what your undergrad looked like compared to what you thought it might look like.
Okay, I have a funny story. So I don't think I mentioned this earlier, but I am from Nigeria. So Louisiana Tech was my first experience with living alone in the United States. And I remember in one of my calculus classes, I didn't know what to expect, really. I just thought it was going to be like an extension of high school. You know, we're going to make friends, we're going to be happy. Let's say that was not the case. And I did not imagine at the time starting at Louisiana Tech that this is where my trajectory would lead me. Absolutely not. All right. For instance, when they were talking about the program required an internship with a global focus, I was like, well, I'm from Nigeria. Can I just go home and do an internship? Does that count as a global focus? It's like, no, you're already from Nigeria. It doesn't count. Go broader, think bigger. So the faculty mentor in that case definitely pushed me out of whatever would have been my comfort zone, pushed me where really propped me to be like, you can do more. Don't settle for just whatever the easiest thing at that time could be. I did not imagine I'll be living in Qatar right now. Absolutely did not imagine I'll end up working in Al Jazeera. Like it has been, I don't know the term to use for it, but I think it also underpins the need to be adaptable, the need to be open, and to really understand what drives you at each point in time, being aware that I may not know what's coming next, but I know who I am and I know what I like to do. And if you don't know what you like to do, that's also okay. You will do something and you will hate it and you will like, I know what I don't want to do. And you will just go through. But I would say don't approach this from a place of fear. Don't approach anything from a place of fear, particularly your career. If you think you want to do it, give it a try. What's the worst that could happen? Really, what is the worst that could happen? Always ask yourself that. I heard so many no's. Being an international student in the US, finding an internship was difficult. Finding a lot of things were difficult. A lot of scholarships were not open to me. A lot of opportunities really just require. I remember getting a scholarship one time from an international oil company I would not name at this point. And the scholarship came with an internship. But at the time of, I guess, redeeming my scholarship, they realized I was not a citizen. And they said, well, we can't give you this scholarship because this scholarship means you get an internship, and you can't get an internship if you're not a citizen. So there will be times where you're just like, what does this even mean? How do I go from here? At the same time, with my internship with ConocoPhillips, they were looking for a junior and I was just a sophomore and they were like, we want you. So there will be times where things just come out of the blue and it's like, is this me? And there will be times where, again, going back to the failure question, you will feel like you have failed, but go with it. None of us really knew where, I didn't know where I was going to be. And I don't think I would not trade any part of it for anything.
Yeah, I'll hop on this. So just knowing a little bit about me, I'm originally from California, and family dynamic was not really there for me. And I kind of had to establish my own network and support group at Arizona State, and I'm truly blessed for everything that I was able to accomplish, because I'm also a first generation student, family from Peru. But just, I took it day by day. That's how I am. I'm able to create something beautiful out of anything that's in front of me. And during my senior year, I was very blessed. Like, I had no idea that universities like Auburn University or Texas A&M would like fly me out to go potentially see their PhD programs. And now look at me where I am now. So yeah, anything's possible, really. You just gotta open it with your heart.
This is my turn as well. But if you asked me 4 years ago if I envisioned myself being a 2-time Elon Musk intern, I would tell you that that was the craziest thing and you're out of your mind. But I give thanks to my advisor, Dr. Claire Dance. Like I mentioned earlier, she is my inspiration, and it's about having someone who believes in you when sometimes you don't believe in yourself. And she's really changed my life. And being a first generation student, especially, I didn't know anyone who was just so experienced in the field, that was so knowledgeable. And her being the first woman I met to pursue a doctorate and be a doctor, not in the way where you go to med school, was just life-changing in itself. But it's about just finding those mentors that get you, that believe in you, that support your craziest and wild ideas. I think is super important. And then ultimately they can also lead you to a community of other kids like yourself that have faced like similar hardships and obstacles.
Yeah, I think for me, coming into college, I thought I had it all figured out. I was like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do this other thing. I didn't do any of those things, but I have had amazing experiences and I would not trade them for the world. Something my grandpa always told me was like, have a plan. just have one. Like it can change the next day, it could change the next hour, but just have a plan. And so that is kind of how I've approached it. And, you know, that plan could be figure out what I want to do. But as long as I acknowledge like that's what I want to do, like my next step is to figure out what I want to do, you know, as long as that acknowledgement was made, like, you know, you will get through the years. Like, you know, stuff will come. I met a faculty advisor my freshman year. I did a summer research project with her. And at the end of the summer, she was like, hey, I have this great project. I think you would be awesome to work on it. Like, let's run with it. And I've been working for her for the past 4 years now. And I think just you know, making connections early on, talking to people, and starting to just explore what you're interested in is really a great way to kind of start. And eventually, like, opportunities will kind of just start to surface, and you might have to work for them and you know, make sure that you voice like, hey, this is something I want to do, or I'm interested in this. But I do think that ultimately it will come, like it just comes together. There's a little bit of just trust the process, and it will happen. With the right work and the drive, you'll get there.
Okay, great. Excellent advice. I think we've probably got time for maybe one more question. From the audience, how did the Grand Challenges Scholars Program help you decide on a career goal and take steps toward meeting that career goal?
Literally, I think where I am now stemmed from my internship with ConocoPhillips, which was a requirement of the GCSP program. That's exactly, that literally was the beginning of my career path now. I did, at the time I went into chemical engineering, I thought I was going to be core technical, just, I guess, on the fields doing technical things all the time. But in that role, it was technical, but then it brought a sustainable development angle to it that I had never thought about, I had never imagined. And now in my current role with CUPE, I literally sent the person who ended up being my boss today an email saying, hey, this is what I want to do. Does CUPE have a department that does that? And he replied saying, oh, CUPE doesn't have a department that does that, but we're building it. Come join the team and let's build that together. And that is what I'm doing right now. Like, it literally was the beginning and has kind of taken me through to where I am right now.
Luciano, I'm gonna put you on the spot a little to also respond to that question about your career goal. I know you're a master's student right now, but we'd love to hear what your plans are.
So just coming from the BME side and now pursuing like a master's in business, it's my career goals. How GCSP kind of helped me was align myself to the love of just healthcare. And I was able to discover it through the internships and opportunities that I was able to come to fruition. But now I'm like getting my business degree to hopefully enter the industry, to work at a biomed or pharma industry, to potentially reduce the price of the product to make it more affordable in countries around the world. That's my overall goal, but let's see where the world takes us.
Okay, wonderful. Well, we are coming close to the end of our time together. I just want to thank Amara and Trina and Luciano and Hillary for taking their time to join us today and share the wonderful successes that they are continuing to accomplish, and how that all connects to some of the work they've done with GCSP. I know we didn't get quite to all the questions in the Q&A, but maybe through some of those networking sessions later, we'll have an opportunity for folks to address those. Just a couple of takeaways. As you all were speaking, I was jotting down some of the words I continued to hear repeatedly. I heard adaptability, flexibility, relationships and mentoring, empathy. There was conversation in the chat about that, and then of course it was mentioned. Persistence, even when things aren't going like they were expected. And so those are some takeaway words that we can carry with us through the rest of the meeting. Again, thank you all so very much. And don't forget to join us back at 1:45 this afternoon Eastern Time for our next session on looking back at what the GCSP has, the founding of it and what it's accomplished thus far. Thanks so much.